My sister lied and got me kicked out at 17 to 16 years later. I made her regret every word. Hi, I'm Nolan. I'm 32, and the last time I spoke to my parents, my father called me a stain on the family name, right before my mother handed me a trash bag and told me to be out in 30 minutes. I was 17. All because of a lie my sister told. Not a misunderstanding. Not a mistake. A lie. The kind of lie you craft carefully. The kind that ruins someone's life. My sister, Olivia, 3 years older, and born with this weird, blinding glow that made everyone else disappear. She was the perfect daughter, the one who painted her college essays in watercolors and always managed to cry without messing up her mascara. She was the golden girl, and I was the kid in grease-stained jeans who preferred fixing lawnmowers to piano recitals. When I asked for help with trade school applications, my dad said, "Real men figure it out." When Olivia applied to a private art institute, they threw her a party and gave her mom's diamond earrings. I tried not to let it get to me. I loved working with my hands, fixing engines, solving problems nobody else could. I had friends, a part-time job at a local mechanic shop, and just enough hope that maybe, eventually, my parents would see me. Instead, Olivia saw her opening. She came home from college that summer with a plan. I didn't know it at the time, of course. All I knew was, she suddenly wanted to hang out. Asked about the garage. Asked about my friends. Asked if I'd ever gotten in trouble. I thought she was trying to reconnect. She was building a case. A week later, I walked into the house, and everything was off. The air was tense. My mother was crying in the kitchen. My father stood like a boulder in the hallway, shaking with rage. Olivia was at the table, arms crossed, face like a mask. That's when they told me I was a drug dealer. That they had proof. Screenshots of texts. Bank withdrawals. Witnesses. All fake. They gave me 30 minutes to pack. And Olivia? Olivia watched me go like she was watching a movie. Like the villain was finally being vanquished. And maybe in her version of the story, I was. But here's what she didn't expect. I survived. I rebuilt. I found out exactly who I was without them. And 16 years later, when they came crawling back, I had something better than revenge. I had receipts. After I left, I had nothing but a duffel bag, a broken phone charger, and $840 in a Ziploc bag I kept tucked inside my work boots. I stayed in the back room of the garage for a few nights, pretending I was just staying late to finish projects. Frank, the shop owner and low-key guardian angel I didn't know I needed, found me passed out under a workbench with my hoodie as a pillow. He didn't yell. Didn't pity me. Just said, "I've got a cot in the storage room. It ain't pretty, but it's got heat and a lock. You want it?" I nodded. Didn't speak for a full hour after that. That cot saved me. I finished high school by the skin of my teeth, working full-time hours and sleeping in that back room. I showered at the gym. Ate instant noodles. Skipped prom to replace a timing belt on a '99 Civic and didn't feel like I missed a damn thing. Frank taught me everything. About engines, sure, but also about people. About owning up when you mess up and showing up when it matters. He'd tell me stories about customers from back in the day and made me promise never to gouge a single mom on brake pads or let someone drive off with a bad battery in winter. By 20, I was running the shop while Frank dealt with his bum hip. By 22, he handed me the keys and said, "It's yours if you want it. Just keep the coffee strong and never let Olivia talk you into anything if she ever comes sniffing around." I hadn't even told him her name. I renamed it Forge and Wrench Motors. Painted it myself. Black and red with a retro sign that made old men whistle and kids stop to take pictures. We got popular on Instagram, go figure. Turns out, people love watching a rusted-out Camaro turn into a showstopper. Especially when the guy doing the work talks to the camera like he's your buddy walking you through the job, not some pompous expert. I was happy. For real. Which, I guess, is when the past decided to knock. Literally. A knock on the glass one Wednesday morning. I looked up from under the hood of a Mustang to see Olivia standing there, in a designer coat and sunglasses that screamed, "My life is falling apart, but I'm still pretending it's fine." She didn't even flinch when I opened the door with grease-covered hands. "Nolan," she said, like we were friends. Like she hadn't burned my entire world down for a round of applause. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. "Mom and Dad need your help." I didn't answer. Not right away. I just stared at her like she was a ghost that wandered into my life too late for redemption, and too early for a haunting. She shifted under the weight of my silence, brushing imaginary lint off her coat. The kind of move that used to work on people. Not on me. She finally added. They're going to lose the house. I laughed. Out loud. Like someone had just told the world's darkest joke and expected applause. The house? I asked. The one I got kicked out of? That house? Her jaw tightened. They didn't know what to believe. Oh, they knew what they wanted to believe, I said, folding my arms. You just gave them permission. She exhaled, like this was exhausting for her. Look, I didn't come here to fight. Then you're in the wrong place, Olivia. She looked around the shop. The air smelled like oil and rubber and pride. You've done well for yourself. Thanks. Built it with nothing but a lie and a toolbox. That got to her. I saw it, the flicker of guilt, buried under years of curated self-righteousness. But guilt doesn't pay old debts. And it sure as hell doesn't rewrite history. They're sick, she said finally. Dad's heart. Mom's knee. They're drowning in medical bills and second mortgages. I can't help them. Not anymore. There it was. Not anymore. Not because she didn't want to. Because she couldn't. I need you to step in, she added, quieter now. Just this once. That's when I knew. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was a pitch. I should have slammed the door. Told her to go to hell with her fake concern and filtered guilt. But something in me, maybe Frank's voice, maybe my own curiosity, said, hear her out. So I did. We sat in my office. I poured her gas station coffee in a chipped mug that said, Certified Gearhead. She didn't touch it. She told me everything. How the perfect life unraveled. How her husband took off with someone younger and more gullible. How her art career flopped after she flaked on enough clients to earn a Yelp graveyard. How our parents burned through their retirement trying to keep her afloat and now had nothing left. And they're asking for me? I asked. They don't know I'm here, she admitted. They're too proud. But I thought maybe you'd want to know. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the woman who once destroyed me just to keep her spotlight. And then I smiled. Small. Cold. Surgical. Tell them I'll help. Her face lit up like Christmas. But I have conditions. She blinked. What kind of conditions? I opened a drawer, pulled out a clean sheet of paper, and started writing. By the time I finished, her hands were shaking. Because this time, I was the one making the rules. 3 days later, I pulled up to my parents' house in a matte black truck that rumbled like thunder and parked it directly in front of the mailbox. Petty, maybe? But I wanted them to feel it, that the boy they threw away didn't just survive. He thrived. I hadn't been back in 15 years. The siding looked tired, the garden overgrown, and the porch sagged like it gave up waiting for anyone to care. I took a breath and knocked once. Mom answered the door. She was smaller than I remembered. Older, obviously, but it was more than that. Like she'd been deflated from the inside out. Her eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost, or worse, a bill collector. Nolan, she said, breathless. I gave her the kind of smile you'd give a stranger who might have once stolen your dog. Hi, Mom. She opened the door fully but didn't step aside. I waited. Eventually, she moved. Dad was on the couch, wrapped in an old blanket, the TV low in the background. He looked up, saw me, and did something I wasn't expecting. He tried to stand. Tried and failed. He winced, sat back down, and said my name like it tasted strange. Nolan. You look like hell, I said, walking in. He barked a dry laugh. It's been a year. It's been 16. That shut everyone up. I didn't bother sitting. I pulled out the envelope Olivia had signed, the one I'd had notarized because I played to win, and placed it gently on the coffee table. What's this? Dad asked. A contract. Mom looked at me warily. For what? For help. Dad's eyes narrowed. We didn't ask you for anything. No, I said. Olivia did. On your behalf. And this is how I operate now. Paperwork, clauses, signatures. You know trust. They flinched. I walked them through it line by line. Clause 1, I pay off the second mortgage, medical bills, and property tax. In full. Clause 2, they vacate the house within 60 days. Clause 3, I transfer ownership into a private trust with one condition: they are lifetime tenants in a new, single-level home I've already purchased in a quiet neighborhood 2 towns over. Everything paid for. No rent, no utilities. Clause 4. Olivia gets nothing. Not a couch, not a spare key, not a forwarding address. I watched their faces closely. Mom looked like she was trying to cry without permission. Dad stared at the papers like they were written in Greek. You're buying us a house? Mom finally asked. No. I'm buying peace. For you. For me. The catch is, it doesn't include Olivia. Dad spoke slowly, like the words weighed something. You'd really do that for us? I'd really do that for me. There was a beat of silence. Then Dad asked the real question. What do you want in return? I paused. Then said the only thing that felt true. An apology. In writing. Signed by both of you. And I want it notarized. Mom gasped. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. I want proof. Paperwork. That you finally see what you did. That you know you chose her lies over your son. They said nothing. I stood, buttoned my jacket. 60 days. I said, tapping the envelope. You sign that contract, you get a future. If not. I shrugged. You can keep your pride. And your debt. The apology letter showed up 4 days later. Typed. Signed. Notarized. No handwritten guilt trips. No half-hearted attempts to rewrite history. It was clean. Precise. Legal. I read it once. Then twice. And then I put it in a fireproof folder labeled closure. The next phase moved fast. I'd already lined up a cozy one-story brick house with a small fenced yard and a covered porch. Close to a clinic, close to a grocery store, and far from anyone who ever believed Olivia over me. I covered the costs anonymously, through the trust I'd set up. No one would ever know the name behind it unless they went digging. My lawyer handled everything with surgical calm. Meanwhile, I arranged a crew to help them move, none of whom were family. Olivia, of course, flipped. She texted me 12 times in one day. Started with fake gratitude. Thank you for helping them, Nolan. Shifted to manipulation. They'll be lonely without me. Ended with threats. You're not God. You don't get to erase me. I blocked her. I didn't even save her number this time. Just labeled it. Do not engage. The night before the move, I stopped by the old house one last time. It was quiet. Dad was watching a rerun of a cooking show with the volume low. Mom was in the kitchen labeling boxes. She looked up when I entered. You didn't have to do all this. I nodded. I know. We sat in silence for a minute. No apologies. No rehashing. I wasn't here for redemption. I was here for the logistics. Finally, she said. You really meant it, didn't you? About Olivia. I leaned back in the chair. She cost me everything. And you let her. So yes. I meant it. She's still our daughter. And I'm still your son. That landed. I could see it in her face. Will we ever fix this? She asked. I gave the only honest answer I had. That depends on whether you mean fix it or forget it. I'm not doing the second. That night I didn't stay for dinner. I didn't take any leftovers. I shook my father's hand, nodded at my mother, and walked out. The move went smoothly. The new place looked brighter somehow, even though the sky was overcast. Maybe because it didn't carry the weight of old lies and wallpapered history. I left a welcome basket on the kitchen counter, just essentials. Tea. Crackers. A card that said, no more stairs. No more secrets. They never responded to the note. But they moved in without complaint. And for the first time in 16 years, I exhaled without checking my back. Until 2 weeks later. When Olivia showed up at my house. She was standing on my porch in heels that didn't belong on gravel and a raincoat that looked expensive but wasn't waterproof. The sky above her was gray, and the box in her arms was white. Like a peace offering. Or a trap. I didn't open the door. Not at first. I watched her through the camera feed, sipping my coffee slowly, waiting to see if she'd leave it and run. But she didn't. She knocked again. 3 short raps. Just like when we were kids and she wanted to steal my Halloween candy and pretend it was an accident. I opened the door, but didn't move aside. Nolan, she said, rain catching in her lashes. Please. Just 5 minutes. I didn't say yes. Just stepped back. Barely. Enough for her to get the message, speak fast or not at all. She stepped inside, shivering slightly. I took the box, set it on the table. She stood there like someone waiting for a verdict. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she said finally. For what? I asked, voice calm. Controlled. Be specific. Her shoulders slumped. For the texts? The lies? Everything. For ruining your life. I know I can't fix it. But I wanted you to hear it from me. Out loud. I opened the box. Inside was an old photo of us, maybe 10 years old. Me with grass stains on my jeans, her in a princess dress, both of us grinning like idiots in the backyard. Buried beneath it was something else. The burner phone she used in high school, the one she'd sent the fake text from. I kept it, she said. All these years. I don't know why. Guilt, maybe. I stared at it. Why now? I asked. Because, she said, I've lost everything else. And somehow, that still felt better than losing my brother forever. I almost laughed. Almost. You lost me at 17, I said. You just didn't notice until your audience left. She flinched. That's not fair. I leaned forward. No, what wasn't fair was being kicked out with a duffel bag because you were bored and needed attention. What wasn't fair was the way you smiled while I begged them to believe me. What wasn't fair was losing every single thing I loved so you could keep being the star of your own story. Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't blink them away this time. I want to be better, she whispered. That's great, I said. But you don't get to be better here. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I handed the box back to her. She didn't take it. I thought this meant something, she said. It does, I replied. It means you need to carry the weight of what you did. Not me. I walked to the door and opened it. You're not ready to make this right, I said gently. You're just ready to stop feeling bad. She stood there silent. I didn't slam the door. I closed it like a mechanic tightening a bolt. Firm. Final. Secure. And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what boundaries felt like, not walls, but locks that only open for people who know what love actually means. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No texts. Not even a passive-aggressive email, or a tear-stained voicemail. Just silence. And it was perfect. Forge and Wrench was thriving. We had a 3-month waiting list, a second location in planning, and I'd just hired a new apprentice kid named Mateo, 17, bright, quiet, and clearly carrying something heavy. I saw a lot of myself in him. The way he flinched when someone raised their voice. The way he double-checked every tool like one mistake might cost him more than a job. I didn't ask questions. I just gave him a set of keys and a hoodie with the shop's logo. He stared at it for a solid 10 seconds before asking, "This for real? Only if you show up on time and don't drink all the coffee," I said. He smiled. First time I'd seen it. That afternoon, while Mateo was learning how to rotate tires without cracking a rim, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Later I listened. It was Mom. She sounded calm. Older still. But softer. Like something had cracked and let light in. "Hi, Nolan. Just wanted you to know, the new house is quiet. Your father actually sleeps through the night now. We have a neighbor named June who brings us muffins every Sunday, and there's a bird feeder outside the window that's got your dad obsessed with cardinals. I know this doesn't fix anything. But I thought you deserved to know we're trying. We are. And we hope, if it ever feels right, you'll visit. No pressure. Just love." I didn't cry. But I sat there for a long time staring at the phone. Because for once, they didn't ask for anything. They didn't guilt-trip me or beg for more. They just said thank you. And that silence, the kind where nobody's demanding anything from you, where nobody's trying to spin your scars into obligations, that silence felt like peace. The next morning, I drove to their new house. Not to talk. Not to unpack emotional luggage. I fixed the leaky gutter. Replaced the porch light. Left a new bird feeder with a note taped to it. Red ones like sunflower seeds. That's from Mateo. Then I got in my truck and left before anyone saw me. I didn't want recognition. I wanted to make sure the people who once threw me away were finally living small. And kind. And quiet. Because that's all I ever wanted from them. Not money. Not attention. Just peace. I didn't see Olivia again for nearly a year. And when I did, it wasn't at a funeral or some forced holiday truce. It was at a gas station, of all places. Off the highway. I was grabbing a coffee and jerky for a long drive to a classic car show in Phoenix. She was at the counter, arguing with the cashier about a declined card. I didn't say anything. She turned around and spotted me halfway through, asking the poor kid to just run it again. And for a second, just one, her expression softened into something familiar. Not guilt. Not panic. Recognition. Nolan, she breathed, like the universe had staged this encounter. I looked at the cashier, then at her. Quietly slipped a 20 onto the counter and nodded at the kid. For the snacks. Keep the change. He blinked like I was either a saint or an accomplice. Olivia followed me outside, her arms folded tight against a wind she didn't seem dressed for. I'm not following you, she said quickly. This was just random. Okay, I said, unlocking the truck. She stood there for a second too long, watching the door open like she thought I might hold it for her. Like there was still a version of us where I'd offer to drive her somewhere safe. I didn't. I'm working again, she said, voice too fast. Part-time at a gallery. I'm sober. It's not easy. I nodded. Life rarely is when you stop stealing other people's chapters. She flinched, then gave this tired little laugh. Still sharp. Still standing, I replied. There was a beat of silence. Then she asked, Do you think they're proud of you? I paused. Not for drama. Just to really think about it. No, I said. I think they're finally grateful. And that's enough. She nodded slowly. And us? There is no us, Olivia, I said. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I got in the truck. Started the engine. Before I pulled away, she knocked once on the window. I rolled it down an inch. I meant it, she said. I am sorry. I looked her in the eyes and answered in a voice that didn't shake anymore. I know. Then I drove away. I didn't check the mirror. Didn't need to. Because closure isn't about what you say to the people who broke you. It's about what you don't say and finally feel okay living without. The car show in Phoenix was blistering hot and absolutely perfect. Rows of restored classics shimmered under desert sun, hoods propped like open books. People crowded around my '67 Mustang Fastback, asking questions, snapping photos, marveling at the detail work I'd done by hand down to the original stitching in the leather seats. One guy offered to buy it on the spot for 6 figures. I smiled and shook his hand. Not for sale, I said. This one's mine. Later that afternoon, as I packed up, my phone buzzed. A photo from Mateo. It was a spark plug. A clean one. Properly gapped. Labeled in neat handwriting. Client said it's the smoothest idle she's heard in years. Thought you should know. I stared at it longer than I probably should have. Not because of the spark plug, but because of what it meant. That a kid who flinched when the air compressor kicked on now trusted his hands. Trusted his work. Trusted himself. I used to think success would feel like applause, or revenge, or headlines. Turns out, it feels like a teenager holding a spark plug with pride. Like a bird feeder on a quiet porch. Like a voicemail from someone who finally says thank you instead of sorry. Back home, I stopped by the new house just once more. Dad was outside trimming hedges. Mom waved from the porch. Neither of them rushed to hug me or lecture me or ask for anything. They just smiled like I was a person they were happy to see. I stayed for lunch. Nothing fancy. Tuna sandwiches, kettle chips, lukewarm tea. It was the best meal I'd had in 16 years. No speeches. No awkward silences. Just real. Before I left, Mom handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photo. Me, 8 years old, holding a trophy from the school science fair. Smiling. On the back, in faded ink, she'd written, "You've always mattered. We just didn't see it in time." No dramatics. Just a sentence. Just the truth. I kept the photo. Not for nostalgia. For proof that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering and choosing better anyway. I framed the photo. Not for decoration, not for closure, but for reminder. That even if the people who broke you eventually tried to make it right, the real work, the real weight is in choosing not to carry what they left behind. I built my life from scrap. I turned exile into blueprint. Every oil stain, every dented tool, every midnight spent wrenching on a dream they thought wouldn't survive. That was mine. Earned. Forged. Olivia's silence held. My parents kept their distance, respectfully this time. And Mateo? He's managing the shop now on weekends. I watch from the corner sometimes, unseen, as he teaches a younger kid how to check brake pads. It's like looking through a window I used to think was locked. I never got justice. Not really. But I got purpose. I got peace. I got proof. And that, more than any apology, is the ending I deserved. Not the boy they threw away. The man who never needed their map to find his way home.